Hey guys, welcome back to the Game Anyone podcast. This is podcast number 3. I am Dave the Usher, and with me are my good friends...
Scorch!
Chode, you interrupted me.
How you guys doing?
Alright.
Who is happy to be here today?
Like on the planet?
On the planet? Yeah, sure. You know, what have you. So this is podcast number 3. We've been preparing to do this one for a long time now. We've been really busy getting a lot of other things done, so we couldn't quite fit it in when we thought we would, but it's great that we, finally got around to it. Right, guys?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's like a weight off your shoulders.
Okay, so to start this baby off, I guess we'll talk about our current projects and future projects. We got a lot of stuff we're doing, and a lot of stuff we plan on doing. Scorch, why don't you start us off?
Start you off. Okay, well, so for current projects, as you may know, I'm working on Batman for the PS3. And that one is done as a GameAnyone.com exclusive. So if you haven't had a chance to check into that one, it's a really fun game so far. It's shaping up to be a pretty good playthrough so far. I'm also working on a downloadable title for the Xbox Live Arcade, Shadow Complex. That game is actually one of those games that's been done in the style of like the old remastered 2D to 3D type games, which are becoming pretty popular now. That one's actually pretty fun. A lot of Metroid-ish type concepts in that game is pretty good. And then an old title from my childhood, Dungeon Keeper 2, which was one of the best real-time strategy games you could get at that time. Really groundbreaking. It's been a lot of fun for me over the years, and I'm playing through that one now. It's a good time. And then as my back burner title, I'm working on Titan Quest still. That one's, it's one of those games that it's so long and so tedious at some points that, it just kind of mulls along, and I've just been kind of making progress as I go. And as far as future projects, I still maintain the stance that I don't really like to spoil what I'm going to be working on, because then it takes the element of surprise away from me when I decide to put something up for you guys to watch. But
Zach will come and copy it.
Yeah, Zach will come and copy it like a douche. Anyway, but I can probably say that I'll be doing something again from the Super Nintendo, most likely, for something next. I'm just not sure when, so look out for that. That's all I've got.
Good stuff. Zach, what about you?
Really, I'm pretty much just been working on Fuel. Doing a couple arcade games every now and then, so I don't look like I'm doing nothing. But I got like projects I'm working on that aren't out yet, and I'm just pretty much waiting for September to come around for the new rush of new releases for the PC.
Volv,
So, yeah.
What about you, Volv?
I'm still in the midst of playing Banjo-Kazooie for the Xbox Live Arcade, which originally was a Nintendo 64 game, and I don't know, I'm done with that. It's on my computer. It's just I'm finding it hard to get time, to render and upload, and still playing Legend of Zelda: The Majora's Mask. Same thing with that, but getting there eventually. Future projects, I really don't have anything in mind other than possibly some co-ops and shit. So
You said
other
you
than
wanted
that,
to.
that's pretty much it.
You said you wanted to play a lot more Nintendo 64 games recently, right?
Oh yeah. Wanted to basically go through my collection of N64 games that I grew up with. When I'm done with Banjo-Kazooie, I kind of want to play Banjo-Tooie, and then maybe Mario Party or Mario 64 eventually. But we'll see when that happens.
Awesome stuff. For me personally, I've still been doing Final Fantasy IX. I believe I'm in month 4 of playing that game. It's been taking me a long time probably because I've been doing a lot of other projects like, Atari games. And of course I did Desert Bus, which really took a lot out of me. But I'm almost done Final Fantasy IX. I literally only have a couple of parts to go and a couple of bosses and baddies to kick ass, and then I can do the ending. Good stuff. I also got Donpachi on the way. I also did Dodonpachi a couple weeks ago, so I'm doing that series, I guess you could say. I really enjoyed those games back in the day. In the future, yeah, I hope to do a co-op game or two. One with Volve, and that's going to be really exciting. Right, Volve?
Yep.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We're not going to give away the title yet, so, you know, stay tuned for that. It's going to be awesome. You know,
Yeah,
so
but I mean,
I want to
Sorry.
do a couple of co-op games recently. And, you know, I guess just some more arcade games. I've been wanting to get into those lately, and now that I have my new computer, it's able to handle this kind of stuff. So, you know, that's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, guys, the month of August has just passed us by. A lot of new video games have just recently been released. And, you know, just want to know, what have you been playing lately? I personally haven't been purchasing any video games lately, so I'm a bit out of the loop on this. Scorch, what have you purchased and played recently?
Let's see. Well, considering I spend most of my time actually working on current projects, some new, some old, I haven't been following in the loop as, you know, I'm not nearly as removed as Dave is, but I'm not in the loop like a lot of people. But what I've been playing recently is I've been playing Batman, obviously, and Shadow Complex was a new title from back in July. Even though it's not an official game, it was released for the Xbox Live Arcade as like a mini title. So those are what I've been up to, both of which are actually really phenomenal. The one thing I have to say about Batman, though, is that the voice acting is kind of hokey. But, you know, they make up for that in other ways.
You're not a fan of the voice acting?
The voices themselves fit the characters, but if you watch the cutscenes, you'll just see that it looks really, like,
Not
fake.
lip sync very well.
It's not lip sync very well, it just looks really cheesy.
Because I do know they used a lot of the voice actors from the old animated series, so I thought that would be a really big plus for the game.
It is. It makes it, you know, the characters that are, you know, the voices that for those characters, they're done a little bit more justice when you have the right person voicing them. You know, obviously since they were from the animated series, that was quite popular, and voice actors from that generation rather were, you know, very, very well selected and voiced their parts quite well. So that kind of it takes some of the light away from the fact that just looking at the cutscene itself.
I don't think they actually move their mouth. I think they just bob their head left and right.
No, they move their mouth. It's just kind of it's, you know, open close kind of thing. It just looks really, really forced. But the voices are really good. So that, I mean, not to confuse the voice acting is really good. It's just the presentation isn't.
Well, it's
what I was expecting.
It's more in sync than Final Fantasy X, right?
Yeah.
I would hope so.
There are some games that just blow it out of the water, like as far as just being shit, you know. I don't have any, like, off the top of my head right now. I don't have any off the top of my head, but actually, playing Shadow Complex, the voice acting in that game, you know, they have, you know, some of the characters have decent voices, but the plot is so corny that, you know, it's not very good either. You know, it's your standard. Oh, we're going on a trip somewhere, and oh, my girlfriend gets captured, and now blah blah blah. Here we go. But that game actually has an interesting tie-in to some science fiction novels. I don't know if anybody's ever read the Empire novel from Orson Scott Card, but apparently, apparently, Shadow Complex is like a tie-in between the ending of that story and I guess there's a sequel he's writing that's supposed to come out this year or next year, and it's supposed to like tie the plots together. So if anybody's a fan of that particular series, Shadow Complex kind of follows that. So, you know, having a bit of a lacking in the voice acting department, they fill it in with some of those key plot twists, I guess. But yeah, that game has been pretty fun. It's been really nice to get into those games that kind of revive the whole retro type style games. You know, like this one, they say it's like Metroid Reborn for the new generation.
Nice.
It really is. You know, Super Metroid was unique in and of itself, just because it's like, you know, probably revered as the best Super Nintendo game ever. by many people. For this game to actually employ some of those concepts, like searching for things and having to backtrack and come back with items, it's granted not as long, but it's really nice to see that companies are actually trying to cater to the crowd that is now growing older and has, surpassed, a generation or two at least of video gaming. So it's nice to see some of that.
And when you say going back to retro, do you kind of mean like a semi 2D perspective in some video games?
I'm saying anything probably before mid-90s. Is what I would
side
consider
scrolling.
retro,
Really.
Yeah, side scrolling.
Side scrolling, yeah.
Yeah, 8-bit, 16-bit.
Platform games.
Yeah, like
with 3D.
prior to N64 at least. N64 is 15 years old or whatnot, but it's like I don't consider that retro. At least not yet. It's still quite a jump.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like anything after Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis, and maybe CD for me.
Anything after or before the 16-bit era.
Yeah.
Yeah. that's like our prime gaming time.
I guess you can call the PlayStation and the N64 kind of like the Middle Ages in video game history.
The rise of polygons.
Yeah, you got to harken back to that type of gameplay. That's what I look for the most, and probably why I haven't gotten into a lot of the newer games recently. It's harder to get into titles like that because you're just yearning for the shit that you played when you were a kid. You come home from school, you throw your backpack down, you turn the TV on, and you pop some shit in, and you're that's how you spent your time. It was good stuff.
Yeah, after school video game hour before you have to hit the books.
Yeah, and you sometimes have your friends come over, and anybody that had the multiplayers or the Super Nintendo adapter that lets you have 4 players if there was any games that supported that. Not many of them, but there was a few.
Those were the true co-op days.
Right.
My friends and I will always try to see how we can get our Segas and our Nintendo outside somehow, like portable TVs, or get like an extension cable, drag it out through the porch, because we want to be outside, but we want our video games as well.
Yeah.
Always remember those fun times.
So that's as far as the current releases that I'm playing. That's kind of what I'm doing right now. And as far as the ones that I'm actually looking forward to, it's really not that much. Like I said before, when it comes to new releases, I'm kind of one of those that I'll take notice of it after it's come out. Like I've stopped anticipating stuff because I just don't have the time to put into video gaming like I used to. But I'm looking forward for Assassin's Creed 2, God of War 3, and there's probably a couple other ones out there that are escaping me at the moment. But
we're always stretched for time because of us recording games for the internet, like GameAnyone.com. Just got a lot of projects to do.
Yeah, and a lot of us have full-time jobs, and this isn't our life, believe it or not. So it's hard to fit stuff in.
But yeah, as far as current releases, I guess you could say I'm not really looking forward to much. I mean, Ghostbusters did come out a little bit ago. I still haven't gotten around to that. But when Batman Arkham Asylum is released for the PC, I sure would like to get my hands on that and try it out. It just looks really amazing.
15th.
What's that?
September 15th.
September 15th. Awesome. But other than that, there's really not much I'm looking forward to. I don't play a lot of new games. I think Volv's kind of in the same wagon. Volv, there's nothing really coming up for you, current releases wise, that you're looking forward to, are you?
No, not really. Nothing really. I'm generally not interested at all in the new generation of games so far.
I do know Shadowzack is always a busy little bee. He loves to play the newest releases. He gets his hands on the games, and he just goes batshit crazy. Zach, what have you been?
Smack him in the ass.
What have you been looking forward to in the current releases?
Well, current releases, I have a small list. So I'm just gonna go right through them. There's Section 8 that I played it somehow. Cities XL is like it's like if SimCity 4 is like online multiplayer MMO. That's fun. The new Soul Calibur game for the PSP was kind of fun. Crimecraft was bad. Guitar Hero 5 just came out. It's more the same shit. Death to Spies. The new Wolfenstein game was alright. You know, it was pretty, but it was kind of short. And then we had Batman, the Dirt 2 demo, a bunch of games. I've been playing a lot.
I've heard some good things about Wet. Like, isn't
Wet?
Wet supposed to come out soon?
I've seen it. It looks awesome, but I don't have a PlayStation 3.
Yeah, that's been one that people have requested that I try to look at.
Mm.
And, you know, I got a lot of requests from people saying, "Are you going to do such and such when it comes out?" And I really don't like to answer those kinds of questions because, you know, I don't want to commit to anything. You know, I've got my own stuff to do, so
Scorch has.
because I was curious.
You never want to commit to a long-term game that could take you up to a couple of months while you got other projects you personally would like to get done for yourself in a way.
Yeah, and it's also it's a hard thing to do, and especially when you do new games. There's a downside to doing new games is that you're running the risk of, you know, getting into the playthrough and then realizing, oh, this game sucks ass, you know, and then what do? You know, you either trudge through it and, you know, dirty your soul, or you know, you cut what you've done and you delete it, and, you know, you're a quitter.
My soul is really dirty.
Yeah.
Are you pointing me out or something, Scorch?
I'm not pointing anyone out. I'm just saying.
Zach's dirty too.
I had it happen to me, actually. I did Rygar. I thought that game was going to be really good, and it turned out to be shit. Utter shit.
That's what happened with me was trying. It's boring.
Yeah. So it happens, you know.
I kind of had a similar experience with Breath of Fire 2. It wasn't a bad game, but it just kind of, I dove into it, and then the dialogue was just so horribly translated. I started to get bored with the game, and I'm like, I can't stop now. Gotta finish it.
I actually liked that game. I didn't like Breath of Fire 3, and then there's a game for the PlayStation 2 is Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter.
Mm.
That game was terrible.
Yeah, I hope to do more of the series in the future.
Yeah.
But
speaking of future games,
but Zach, about current releases, did you have anything else in mind that you planned on?
I know Need for Speed Shift is coming out, and that's supposed to be kind of popular, and I look forward to it. It should look really nice.
Awesome stuff, man. But we were talking earlier about kind of our recording process and what it takes, and someone on the forums mentioned, you know, what do you guys do? Scorch, how do you set up your, you know, the process of doing your commentary and recording? Do you do it on a TV? Do you do it on your computer? And there's just about, you know, 1,001 ways of doing, you know, a video game recording process. We got a couple of different ones for ourselves personally. Scorch, would you like to share your whole process? I know it's pretty crazy, complicated.
It's also not free.
It's also not free.
You got to pay for it for me to tell you what's going on. But in all seriousness, my recording process has like changed over the, you know, I think I've been doing this for about a year now. It's changed since then, and depending on if I do console titles or PC titles, I have to switch up what I do. But basically, if I'm playing a console title, I have an HD capture device that captures my gameplay and the game sound. And for my commentary, people ask me if I do it while I play or if I do it after the fact. The answer is I do it during the gameplay, but I have to use a separate program to capture my voice from the microphone. And then when I'm done, I have to take the gameplay track and the audio track for the commentary, and I have to line them up so that it matches, you know, the things that I say match what's on the screen. And that can be kind of troublesome for some people because, you know, you may not get your audio lined up just right with your gameplay. So what I got to doing was trying to make like landmarks, so to speak, you know, places in the game where I said something memorable, so that when I can go back to that spot and line it up and make sure that, you know, the track is roughly in the right place. You know, every now and then I'll fuck it up, and You know, I'll have my speech will be before the actual event, and I'll get people telling me, and you know, things like that happen. So, PC recording actually used to be a lot easier for me. I just used to use Fraps, and then I have another microphone that I used to capture my voice and the game audio directly from the speakers. So all I had to do was record and then render, and that was it. But that method has since stopped working for me for whatever reason. So I have to do the same thing, where I record with Fraps and use my microphone and Camtasia to record my voice, and then line them up and do all that. So essentially, all of my recording takes up time because I have to go back in and edit it, line the tracks up, listen to it, cut stuff out. You know, it's all the stuff that's just time consuming.
That sounds like a pain in the balls, Scorch.
It really is.
I gotta
say.
say.
You know, I've gotten used to it because I've you know, just developed tricks or what have you to be able to do this a lot faster than I used to. But it's still a tedious process, and you know, the whole doing things with guest commentators that adds a whole nother level of complexity into the mix, where I have to line up my audio, the gameplay, and what everyone else is saying. So, you know,
but
it's one of those things that's trial and error.
It doesn't stop there either, does it, Scorch? Because after you do record, depending on doing it on the computer or off a TV, you get the file, and then you still have to render it.
Yeah.
So, what's the process with that? What programs do you use?
So for rendering, I use Sony Vegas, and you know, that's probably the program that I would recommend to anybody who's got any semblance of video editing skills. You can obviously use Windows Movie Maker and Camtasia Studio and any of those other programs that can do video editing. Sony Vegas is just it offers a lot of flexibility for the types of things that you might want to add to your videos to like do effects, and it's really good for watermarking, and you can control individual volume levels. You can have multiple tracks to, like, you know, put images on. You can do transitions, you know, all kinds of fancy schmancy stuff. But yeah, so I do all of my editing and rendering in Sony Vegas, and it takes roughly an hour for each 10-minute segment, depending on the bit rate and everything and what game I'm doing. But yeah, it's about an hour of video, and then I have to upload when that's done.
Sometimes the time is more or less depending on HD or the quality you want to use, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so usually on my I haven't done a lot of older games other than Illusion of Gaia since I started changing some of my methods, but I just record with a lower bit rate because there's not as much video to be shown and stuff like that. So I can sometimes get videos out in about a half an hour. And then some of the games, especially the newer ones, they capture in 60 frames per second instead of 30. So to render with 60, it takes twice as much time. But yeah, it still equates to about an hour. I've had a few of them come out to about an hour and a half, but most of the time I do it overnight. So I just leave my computer on and let it go.
That is a plus. You could just, you know, sleep away for 8 hours while it does all the work, and, you know, you can give your computer a break so it won't slow you down, because rendering takes a lot of the memory usage up on your computer.
Yeah. I actually just recently upgraded a bunch of the memory in my computer because I was having problems with I had plenty of memory available, but Vegas didn't think so it was crashing. And yeah, the more memory the better, obviously.
Alright, man. Awesome stuff. Very complicated. Probably something I never want to get too extreme into, because my process is more simple. Basically, for me, I started out using Cam Studio back in the day, about a year ago. It's a very, very simplistic recording device, and it really doesn't give you the you know, quality you would prefer. And I moved on to, like, you know, unregistered HyperCam and that kind of thing, and then I finally got Camtasia, which is what I'm using to record now. I would say Camtasia is just like a great recording device. I don't think I'll ever need to use another one again, at least as far as online recording goes on the computer. I've never done any off-computer recording, like from the television or anything like that. It's always been on this screen right here in front of me, so it's been a lot of fun doing that. And after I'm done recording, I do what you were kind of talking about, Scorch, rendering in Sony Vegas. And I got you and Maceman to help me set that up back in the day, I think back in January when I started doing Final Fantasy VII. And that was a lot of fun. I still have a lot to learn about Sony Vegas. There's a lot of shit there. Maceman has also been doing a lot of work on my arcade games, giving me kind of cool-looking intros. Oh, and Scorch did also on the X-Men arcade game that I recorded recently. So it kind of looks cool to see the arcade machine and then kind of, you know, zoom in right into the action, you know, so you can have it a little bigger and better, and you know, that really looks nice.
That's actually kind of one of those examples of being able to do, you know, non-standard video editing with programs like Vegas and Adobe After Effects and Premiere and stuff like that, is you can really get a chance to experiment with some pretty neat effects.
But you know, other than that, you know, I just used the Camtasia. I got a basic, like 10-year-old stick mic. Really, this thing is not fancy. I just plopped this stick mic down on the keyboard. I'm using it right now. It's really old and ancient, but it seems to be, you know, getting my voice quality really nice. So I don't see why I should upgrade. I don't really have to. And then, of course, I have to go to my volume mixer, and I usually adjust my my volume depending on the game, because some games or you know, genres have different level music. So I always will do a couple of tests to see how my voice comes out with the gaming music. So, you know, that sounds pretty good. But other than that, Zach, why don't you tell us your setup and how you, you know, do your recording styles?
Well, my setup's probably the simplest of them all. It started with just, I've always used Fraps since I've started recording. Like when I first got like Unreal Tournament 2004, I started getting into Fraps and rendering. But my render thing has always changed. I started off with like Virtual Dub, just trying to get my files under 100 meg, so I didn't really care about quality. And then it moved on to taking my Fraps file into Windows Movie Maker and just like pumping them out the highest settings I could. Now I just usually use Camtasia to edit my stuff and render it for HD. Unless I really need to do some fancy editing stuff, then I move on to like After Effects or Vegas or Premiere. But really, my only time my setup ever changes is to do co-op commentaries, which gets like tricky. I have an external sound card, which I have the microphone input coming from my speaker, and that carries all my stereo mixes out to my second sound card, and I use that sound card as the audio recording device for Fraps.
That's a pain in the ass.
No,
Yeah,
it's simple and it works.
Doesn't sound so simple.
Simple
Kinda.
for you, maybe. It's all simple when it's your own shit, but
Yeah.
when you explain it to someone, they're like, okay.
I've actually recently stumbled upon a virtual sound driver, so I'm actually thinking I could probably just do away with my external sound card now.
It's possible.
It's that tricky.
So you haven't changed your process in a while?
I have not. I've always recorded with Fraps, unless it's like a game that doesn't like support DirectX or OpenGL, then I'll have to use like Camtasia recorder to capture it.
That's interesting. But Volv, what is your process about? Is it any similar to ours, or do you got your own thing over there?
In some ways, it started off similar to you. I originally started off with Cam Studio, and then I realized it was a piece of shit, and then I went to Hypercam 2, I believe, and well, I got a registered version, not the unregistered one, because that hideous watermark that leaves on your videos. But my video quality was still shit, because I used to do video editing and like video rendering with what's it called, Windows Movie Maker, and it was such a low bitrate when I actually uploaded it to YouTube, and I never even got high quality on my videos. It's generally horrible. But nowadays I use Sony Vegas to edit my videos, produce it, and the quality that I produce on, well, I mean, stuff in GameOne.com and for capturing up the consoles, originally I bought my Dazzle when YouTube was still in high quality, not HD. I really need to get around to find a Hauppauge or a Hauppauge or however you pronounce it.
Me too.
Whenever that happens, yes. But for recording off the computers with like emulators and stuff, I kind of use Camtasia Studio 6 with just like you, or if you use the older version, I don't know. But for recording audio, but when I'm recording up like game consoles, it's just a case of loading up Audacity, which is an audio recording program, and recording the track, lining up similar like Scorch does with his and Sony Vegas. But like he said, you learn a few like tips and tricks with it, and it just becomes a lot easier when you get used to doing it over and over and over again, time and time again, every time. But you actually go and making a batch render. So I don't know. I learned most of what I know.
You talking about Audacity, Volv?
Audacity, like when you actually save a file and line the WAV up with the video itself, I basically do it the same kind of way that you do. Like taking the separate audio file and lining it up with your video file on Vegas.
Yeah, well, we probably should have mentioned Audacity as a good program to use for capturing audio from your microphone. That's free.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I've heard problems with that program is that sometimes when you're capturing your audio, it's not exactly synced up with your gameplay when you go to sync it up with the track, because there's some compression going on there where it actually causes the tracks not to be the same length as far as what gets recorded. So people often report that every 5 minutes or so they have to like cut their track and move it along, and it's different for everybody really. But if that's your route, Audacity is a good free program to download for sound editing. As
far as microphones and headphones go, Volv, what do you use to record with that?
Originally, I used the headset I bought from Maplin, which is a UK electronics store. They make their own brand stuff. Most of it's actually pretty good. The only thing that I bought from them that was horrible was a desktop microphone. That was a couple of years back, and it was pretty awful. But my headset recently broke, and I used that desktop microphone made by Wavtech, similar to what Dave uses, I believe. But mine is about 5 years old and not like 10 years old like Dave's. And it done the job, but it was like probably a lower quality version than Dave's because it had a slight static effect. But it wasn't really as noticeable as other microphones I've used in the past, I guess. But these guys will definitely know of whenever one of mine broke down. So,
sometimes it happens during the co-op games we play online, just for fun, of course.
Yeah, just for fun,
just
like
for
we
fun.
play random games.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me as far as like the types of microphones that we use. Depending on like I said, I started recording consoles when I first started doing recording, and all I had was a stick mic, and it picks up all kinds of noise. And if you do any console recording, your TV is probably pretty close to your computer. So if you don't turn the TV volume down so that your microphone can't pick it up, you get an echo effect going on. So I had to account for that, and I decided to move to a headset. I actually started with a headset that was really shitty, and then I got rid of it and went to a stick mic, and I did that for a while. And I went back to a headset because I could turn the TV up louder and wouldn't have the sound picked up. So, depending on if you're playing a PC game or a console game, the type of mic you use really makes all the difference.
And
price range with headsets and price range with headsets and like desktop microphones can vary though. Like it depends on what type of brand you would go after. If you want something cheap but is effective, then it'll probably cost you about £10, I don't know, $20, something like that. How much did you guys pay for yours, if you can even remember? Because some of us use the old microphones.
No more than like $10. I mean, this thing is just basic.
Well, also the only thing to remember is that a microphone versus a headset actually includes speakers. So you're paying for different dual functionality basically. So your microphone on the headset itself may be just a regular mono microphone that you just plug into the headset. And you're actually paying for the comfort fit and the 4 speakers per ear and all that stuff. But good headsets actually, that you can game with and do all that stuff. $40 to $50, and then you can get into the $100+ if you're a gamer.
Insane.
They have gaming headsets. It is
insane, overrated piece
It is.
Zach,
And they're prone to failure too, so.
I believe you use like a fancy headset, don't you?
I want to say fancy. It's like $40. It's a Plantronic gaming headset. It's like I need it because it's like those big old time like giant headphones.
Like you're in an
Right.
airplane or something, taking off.
Yeah, like I like those. I like those. I can't stand those other headphones, like the really small ones, the cushions, or the ones that go in the ear. So I had to find me some big ones.
Yeah. I use a Creative Fatality headset, and it was about $50.
Awesome, man.
Nice comfort fit, big earpieces, good times.
I might have to get into the headset someday. I don't know. I'm still using this microphone. One day, who knows, it might break on me, and I'll have to get something new. But another thing I wanted to touch on as far as our recording and hardware process goes, since we advertise for GameAnyone.com, I personally use a audio mark, which you will hear every single time you watch my videos. It's always in there in the first 10 seconds. But most people actually do a watermark, so maybe we should touch up on that a little bit and describe how we do that process, how you put it on your videos, maybe the effects you use, Scorch.
Let's see. So the way I do it, and this is where Sony Vegas really comes in handy, is it has text media that you can insert into your video. There's tutorials that you can follow for how to put, image overlays and transitions and stuff into Vegas videos. But essentially, I just type in some text. So I'll say GameAnyone.com, and then you can change the font and the color and the placement. It's automatically transparent. You can also make it opaque so that you can, it act as a background. But it's really easy just to change the font size, change the placement, add outlines. You can shear it, so you can place effects on the text where you can bend it and stuff like that. So if you really want to do something creative with pretty minimal work, Vegas is really good. But otherwise, a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll make image files or GIF files, make them transparent with something like Photoshop, and then use whatever program that they have to paste the image over the video, and that's essentially what it is to watermark.
Awesome.
Zach, you might actually be able to touch on this. Doesn't Camtasia have a watermark feature at the end?
Yeah, it does. The last process before you start to name your file and hit finish, there's a whole section for watermarking, and you can adjust the size, the opacity, ratio. You can position it wherever you want.
Yeah.
Pretty much what I do, I'll go to Photoshop, get the text tool, type out a little plain text, put like an outline around of it to have a contrast, so it doesn't go black or doesn't get hidden under the white or the dark sides. And then I just turn off the background, save it as a PNG file.
Now, do you change up your watermark at all to match the type of game you're playing? I usually try to do that based on the game I'm playing.
Most of the time, I don't. But recently, the last couple videos I've been trying to change up the watermark and actually include an intro to my videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've been trying to do something fancier, make some really kind of interesting intro, haven't you?
Times change, and so
You've
I
been
figure I should change with the
Working
times.
on the kinks. I think
Yeah.
I saw your
Maybe we
test.
Maybe we should talk about how much your editing software actually costs. Sony Vegas itself, the program that we've all been talking about using in Camtasia, it's actually pretty expensive. It's a lot of money to put into this sort of thing. You better have a lot of determination and basically a lot of determination to actually keep going on with video recording, video editing, making your shit look good, or it would be a waste of money in the end result.
Yeah, and
Scorch can tell you himself that it's really expensive.
Yeah, a lot of people will go into trying to acquire certain software by means other than paying for it. We don't want to get into that right now, but
We don't endorse it, but we don't,
we're
call you Nazis for doing
we're
it.
not going to say anything about that. Me personally, I like to pay for my software, and it is not a cheap venture, especially if you want to do HD and getting the devices for capturing in HD. You're talking 100 plus for any piece of component, and then the software itself is 300 plus for that. And most of us do this for free. We don't get paid for any of this stuff. So this is all money that we're dumping into something that is pretty much fruitless. you know, more or less. Hopefully in the future that changes, but
Oh, maybe.
all
Maybe
for
someday.
all for the entertainment of everyone on the internet, you know, and because it's a hobby that we all find fun. I mean, hopefully we find it fun, but you know,
Yeah.
that's kind of the price you pay for, you know, doing stuff like this.
Volv,
It is fun, but it can be very frustrating.
would you
Yeah.
say your process is any different? Your watermarking process, or what do you have to do?
I pretty much do it the same way as Scorch does. Basically, I add a new video track, I add the text media, I type in GameAnyone.com or recall a recent preset I've used, and then basically change the placement, add the outline, and that's pretty much it.
All right, awesome stuff, man. So yeah, that's pretty much all we have to do. That's it. It's that simple, everybody. That's all we have to do with our hardware and recording commentary process. Piece of freaking cake, right, guys?
Yeah, you also have to have something to say. If you add commentary, you have to have something to say.
Yes.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah. Some do
I always get
commentary,
people
some
asking
don't.
me, what's the advice?
There is no advice for that.
Yeah, just be sociable.
Awesome.
Can't plan ahead.
Good stuff, guys. Good stuff. Awesome stuff, man. That's great. So, you know, we got a special guest who just happened to pop up right now, and it's good timing because we're on to our next segment, and it just happens to be all about this one individual, and that is the founder of GameAnyone.com, who goes by the name of Maceman. Everyone welcome Maceman.
Hey,
So-
mates, man.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
What's
Just
been
got home
going
from
on?
School. Working on the site.
So basically, we brought in Maceman because we wanted to take a little time out and ask him a couple questions about GameAnyone.com and, you know, about, you know, the site in general. So, Mace, I would just like to ask you, you know, how did GameAnyone.com begin? You know, what is its creation all about? How did it start?
Well, the funny thing is, before I even owned Game Anyone, it was the site for like board games and card games. If you look on archive.org, you can actually look up and see what it looked like in 2003. And actually, 3 years later is when I actually became the owner of it. So it was in 2007. I purchased the domain name, and I didn't know what to do with it really. Originally, it was for like a deal I was doing with someone else, and that didn't go out so good. So I had this domain name in my hands, GameAnyone.com. I didn't know what to do with it, no idea. It had to be something with games, obviously. So I asked around on GameSpy, people I played with online, what should I do with it? And still, no one had a good idea. But eventually, I thought of this thing where I was good at this game, Stronghold, an RTS game I used to play. And I thought maybe I should show some tips on video, you know, help some people out. And that's what I did. I put my videos up, and look at the site now. It's evolved.
It's become the mutant bastard child that is GameAnyone.com that we all enjoy today, right?
Yeah, so after Stronghold, you know, I started playing Half-Life 2, and I recorded some videos on that. And it just grew from one game to the next. And like originally, I listed like all the games on one little list on the front page. And now you can't even do that anymore since there's thousands of games on the site. And people submit their own videos now. We got tons of contributors. They got the director system going. And thousands of people visit the site every day now. It's crazy.
So, yeah, the site's been growing over the years you've had it up there. You've added a lot of new features, especially recently. You know, what kind of features have just been added that you got up?
Well, really, just recently, we didn't have the feature to jump ahead in videos before they were loaded, and we do now have that feature. And not just that, but the site's been improved by like the design of it and the ease of how you can use it. We also added a request system, member profiles. We sell T-shirts now. We have a director system. We have high-definition videos, co-op walkthroughs. We got raffles, and we got this podcast.
Now, in the raffles, you auction off a number of items away. I believe you're giving away, a 1,000 gigabyte hard drive, and that's
Yeah.
up in a week.
Yeah, someone's going to win that in
There's
about a week from
to
now.
go. That's you know, that's interesting, and those things cost like a lot of money. How much do those go for usually?
That's about $100.
All right, awesome stuff,
Get it
man.
for free.
So,
Yeah, and we're always adding new features to the site, always making it better. We got lots more to come too.
Good stuff. Well, I also know that since the site's been getting so big, you've also added Scorch as an administrator, and he helps out a lot of what you do now, too, and he adds features to the site. What do you think of that? Scorch, how would you describe that?
How would I describe that?
Yeah, just, coming on board.
Well, I could actually kind of describe, like, how I don't know if I described it in the last podcast or not, but kind of how I came to be is I got invited to the site from Maceman, like on YouTube, and I was like, oh, whatever, what the fuck's going on? I don't know who this kid is. And then I heard it, on Dave's videos, and I came over to the site, and I started looking at what they had going on. I started submitting my walkthroughs. I don't remember how I found out about the director system, if somebody told me or if I just kind of stumbled across it. And I asked, how do you get into this program? And this was before we had the current application feature that we do now, where it was basically either you got nominated in or when you passed a certain requirement, all of the existing directors voted you in. Well, I was doing Fallout at the time, so I had quite a bit of progress ahead of me, and I had been watermarking for so long that I just got a PM from him saying, you become a director and all this stuff. It's good. We like what you're doing. Come on in. And I think I remember sending him a message asking him about how do I become a moderator? What can I do to help make this site better? I want to contribute. And I don't remember how it actually passed, but eventually I became a moderator. And then I had Mace show me how to do some code. He said, we're looking for people to do coding. It's only me basically doing this. I'm running out of time. What do you know? So, I
Scorch has helped a lot. He's added the application system for directors. Scorch added that himself. And he added the feature to play one video to the next. When one ends, it automatically goes to the next. He's also added lots of other features to the site. He's helped out tons. He's a great administrator. And he makes great videos, too.
Awesome stuff.
I try. Yeah, so it was nice to be able to get in there, and it seemed like I jumped up the ranks pretty quick, and everybody's been pretty supportive and welcoming, and it's quite an environment to work in, and it's a lot of fun.
I think just yesterday you added something to the contributor page where you can see who has the most videos or who has the most views, stuff like that. You added a couple of new ones.
Yeah, Maceman. We basically revamped the contributors page, and he added up a bunch of top contributors by, certain traits like video guides, number of video views, the total length, and then I added one yesterday to view who has the most number of subscribers. So if anybody wants to know who's being subscribed to or watched the most, you can go to the contributors page and see who's on top of that.
Good stuff, man. All right, well, we want to thank Maceman for taking some time out and joining us. We've had a lot of fun learning a little bit about the site history. I always think, history about certain things I'm interested in is always, a good thing to know. It's always great to brush up on your history, kiddos. So thank you, Maceman. Everyone, say thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, Maceman.
Goodbye.
Got to go get some pizza. See you guys.
Maceman has to go eat some pizza.
The pizza man.
All right, good stuff. Well, moving on now. We've been talking a lot about the site, and we wanted to get into the question and answers that people post on the site. In the podcast forum, a lot of people, will ask us questions. Some of them are very good, and I think we'd want to get into that. One of which is, what is your least favorite game? Which I would say is a huge toughie. I'm still not sure what answer I have. Scorch, why don't you start us off?
Oh, God. This is one of those topics that's every time you talk about it or hear what somebody else has to say, you're like, oh, yeah, that game. I hate that game so much. But I went through and I chose a game from like the older generation of games and then one or two from the newer generation. And after talking about some stuff as far as like current projects and releases and stuff like that, I got some new ideas. So as far as the old stuff, I'd probably have to say that Demon Sword on the NES was one of my least favorite games. It was one of those ones that was a pain in the ass to figure out what to do. It was hard as shit, And it must have been because I inherited the title from somebody and I didn't really play it as a kid. You know, I popped it in now and I'm like, this game blows. You know, it's really similar to a game called Legend of Cage, which is also kind of bad, but it's, you know, a little bit better. I don't know. Anybody who's had a chance to look it up can play that. As far as the newer stuff goes, I named off one game I have for the 360 that I think I got with a bundle that I played maybe once or twice, and it's probably because I'm not really into the genre, but Project Gotham Racing. Yeah, I don't care for that. It's not that it's a bad game per se, it's just not mine. Not my game. Right? My least favorite game.
Zach almost had a heart attack if offended you.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, Zach. I didn't mean to.
Nah, dude, I don't care, man.
It's fine. I mean, Gran Turismo is a good game too, but again, it's not my style, so I can't say. But having discussed the projects earlier, I mentioned Breath of Fire Dragon Quarter. That game is utter bullshit when it comes to just disgracing the Breath of Fire series. I don't know if anybody's played it, but essentially, you know, it's the story of Ryu, you know, like, you know, every Breath of Fire game, and he has dragon powers, but there's some weird system in the game where you're against a global time limit, and if this time limit runs out, the game's over. So you have, I don't remember what the time limit is, but you have a set amount of time to go through the game, finish it, do all this stuff, otherwise your game is over. So you can get to the very end, have the time run out, and then you're effed. You know, that's it. And also, that was one of the first games, I think, besides Resident Evil, that I remember offhand, that made you pay to save the game. Like, they had a quick save feature where it saves the game and then quits, and then when you load it, it deletes it. So you can do that, but it doesn't give you the opportunity to actually, like, okay, I'm going to save the game, I'm going to go try some stuff, and if it doesn't work, I'll reload. You know, so you have to pay to save your game, which is ridiculous.
Pay to play.
Pay to play. And
Awesome.
then I mentioned Rygar being a shitty, just horrible. It was no different from the PS2 title, I'm told, so it's kind of, yeah, no, I don't like it.
So, Zach, what about you? What's your worst game? And, you know, feel free to take a shot at Scorch, maybe get some revenge back.
Oh, man. Fallout 3 is one of them. God, I hated that shit.
That's fine.
Nah, it's not. Well, out of the recently games I've played, like newer games this generation, Need for Speed Pro Street stuck out there for me as being just a monumental pile of bullshit and bad. It's like the first Need for Speed game. They're going to implement damage, but it's no longer like Need for Speed, you know, like you're used to. You're playing on fucking like racetracks and shit, all like fancy pants when it's like supposed to be a street racing game. And the physics are all shit. The game just horrible. So that's one of the ones. For the Sega Genesis, I remember, like, when I was bad or acted up, one of the punishment would be I would have to watch a Barney video called Good Manners, and it just so happened to have a Barney game for the Sega Genesis called Barney's Hide and Seek. So that game, I always really hated and thought was bad.
How did you procure that one?
I don't know, man. You know, that's one of my mysteries of my childhood. The games just randomly popped there.
Huh. Oddly enough.
Good stuff. Volv, what would you have to say about, you know, the worst game you've, you know, ever played? What do you think
When
the
I was
worst-
a kid, I played the original Dragon Ball Z games on a Super Nintendo, and like this was before we even got the TV show and all that kind of shit. It was just based off of the Japanese comics and the mangas, or whatever the hell you want to call them, and it was just fucking. It's such an atrocious game. The company that made it made the most broken fighting system ever. It's just so fucking retarded. If you play it now, you'll realize that it is probably the worst fighting game in existence. And this continued from Super Nintendo to PlayStation 1, and it was just awful. It's basically like taking a very popular name and then turning it into a video game, and then just taking money off of it because it's a piece of shit. But it was horribly programmed, and it was a horrible game, and it wasn't really worth the money that I paid for it way back when, which was like $30, I guess, $40 just fucking atrocious, horrible game. Newer generation, a lot of the games that I've actually bought is, I would say they aren't really up to standards of what I like about games. I mean, I bought Fable 2 last year for the Xbox 360, and it was like something I expected a lot of, and something I expected to really enjoy and want to play it, again and again and again. And it was just fucking, I don't know, it was terrible, I guess. It was like, they basically repeated the same kind of system over and over again, the same kind of combat system, a really crappy storyline, and it was boring to play. I mean, yeah, I consider playing it again sometimes, but as soon as I start, I get bored. So, it like Scorch said earlier, we kind of look for what we grew up with when we were a kid, and what I grew up with was like enjoyable, fun games that I could play time and time again and not get bored of. But I really don't find that in new age systems or games. Most of them that come out are either letdowns or they're thrown out there because the company wants money fast.
Sounds like it makes you want to punch babies.
Yeah, that's basically how it makes you want to.
Volv is extremely angry.
I have a quick question. Do you remember which Dragon Ball Z game for the Super Nintendo? Because I remember there have been a couple of them.
There's like 5 of them on the Super Nintendo. It was like, I think it's Dragon Ball Z, the Legendary Super Saiyan, which is also called something else in America. It's like, what was it called?
I'm
Super
sure
Saiyan,
it doesn't matter.
No, it was called like Super Saiyan or something like that, like in the Spanish version, but whatever. It doesn't matter. It's the one where it goes up to the Cell Saga and that's it. That's it.
But for me personally, wow, my least favorite game. There isn't a lot I can think of actually. Surprisingly, I did think of this one game, which I'll probably take a little bit of heat from. I guess you could say my least favorite of the series, but I'm gonna have to say Final Fantasy VIII. Yeah, I know, big shocker there. Final Fantasy game, my least favorite game. But the thing is with Final Fantasy VIII is every time I play it, I get about 10 minutes into the story, and the game, to me personally, is just so bland and boring, and there's just something wrong with it, and I just can't take it anymore. I get up to that first boss fight, I think it's with that, the bomb, and I lose my focus, and I just can't do it, and I think it's just plain boring. And I get requests to do that game all the time, and I'm like, oh god, man, if you only knew. I also know absolutely crap about that game. I don't even know the story. The only things I do know are from the reviews and other stuff that people have done off it, and most of them have been unfavorable also. So there is a chance one day that I will dust that baby off the shelf or something and actually put that CD in and try it out, but it's unlikely as I have barely even played the game, and it's just not my cup of tea, I guess you could say. Good stuff.
I didn't
man.
like that game either.
Good stuff.
You know what's funny is that is the only Final Fantasy game I've actually bought.
You bought the one series.
How much?
I actually liked that one enough to buy it.
How much of it did you play, Zach?
10
minutes?
First 2 CDs, I think.
Really? Wow. Well, that's interesting.
I hated Final Fantasy VII.
Whoa.
I'm just a hater on it.
Whoa! Would you
That's
nominate
tough.
that as your least favorite game?
No, because Need for Speed Pro Seat has no place in hell for myself.
Okay. Good stuff. We have a couple other questions here. Our next one is, what you would look for in a person wanting to become a director? That's an interesting question. We've been looking for directors, non-stop on GameAnyone.com. Scorch, what do you have to say about that?
This one is a tough one. It can be
Delicate.
interpreted differently depending on who it is you're asking, since it's a communal voting effort. But what I like to look for in a director, I prefer commentary personally. So anyone that adds commentary, I like to hear commentary that's clear, concise. You've got something to say. You're not just ranting on about whatever, and you're not blabbing or screeching into the microphone. Somebody that's put some effort into making it sound good, and not just talking for the sake of talking. So it helps if you've practiced doing something like that, if you've worked out the kinks of your setup before just popping up your recording and saying, this is my first one, I hope it goes well. Put some research into it. We like to look for people that have put forth the effort and act like that they really know what they're doing and they have a place to be on the contributors list. It's not just anybody that applies gets in. As far as like game choice, we look for game choice. Being unique is very important. There's tons of games that have been added to the site recently that nobody has had recordings done for. That's obviously a big plus. Again, I say if you do commentary, that sometimes puts a little bit of an exemption on what we look for, because anybody that adds commentary to a video, it kind of gives that extra level of interpretation on the game, and kind of makes it unique in and of itself. So anybody that adds commentary, think about that kind of stuff when you're applying. The person should be open to suggestions. Obviously those of us that have been doing this for a while, maybe we're not even the best, but we've been around the block a few times to know that these
Your shit don't smell that
Especially me.
Not to give anybody a big head or anything like that, but it's when you've had the time to go through different types of recording styles, maybe your methods changed a little bit, the different types of games you've done, how far you've come over how long you've been doing it. You pick up a few things. So there are some things that those of us that have been doing it for a while will know, and if we see that maybe you could do that or your videos could use something extra, that you'd be willing to be open to criticism. So if we have something to offer, you'll take that into consideration. And then anybody that doesn't provide commentary, we kind of have this requirement that HD quality, when applicable, is a must. So if you can get HD quality from, let's say, that PC game you're recording, or you have a console that is capable of outputting an HD resolution, the Wii does not count. Just so, in case you're wondering, a lot of people are recording Wii games. And
Emulator, hey.
If it's applicable, then HD quality is a must. Otherwise, the fake stretching the video, if it looks good, will most of the time suffice.
Zach, anything you want to add to that?
I'll let Scorch finish off because I have a lot to say on the HD subject.
Okay.
Well, without popping a top there, the concept of HD may or may not be a topic for a later discussion, but if especially a lot of people that record consoles, going the HD route is not cheap. So if you're settling on using a Dazzle, don't expect to get the quality that we're looking for from a Dazzle on any of those consoles. That's just kind of the way it works. If you add commentary, like we said, that's kind of one of those things that we're always looking for, to add that extra bit to the video, something that's worth promoting. Otherwise, unfortunately, this plagues walkthroughs that don't have commentary is you can't really tell one from the other, and there's nothing that really makes it stand out. And that's hopefully not to insult anybody, but that's kind of my personal view on how that goes.
All right,
so
man.
Those are the kinds of things I look for.
Good stuff. Shadow Zach, I'm sure you want to dive into a number of things. Why don't you take it from here?
I always first look at the video quality, and fake HD, to me, it's just atrocious. Hurts my feelings, kinda. But I always look at video quality first. Commentary, it's hit or miss with people, because some people do good commentary, like Dave and Scorch, and some people don't. They just don't have no enthusiasm. It's just like, okay, we're going to do this now. It's like, oh, okay. I'm not really feeling you guy there.
Good, strong voice.
Some people just don't have the voice for it.
Some people don't have the voice for it. That's why I don't do commentaries all the time. Sometimes I'm just like, it's 5 in the morning. I don't want to do this.
You gotta be in the mood. You gotta be in the mood.
Yeah.
Watermark quality is a big iffy with me. If your watermark takes more than like 5% of the screen retail, and I can't see through it, it just pisses me off because it's just an eyesore to me. It's like, I can't see what's behind that watermark.
Yeah.
I have to agree with Zach in that one. Sometimes watermarks, when people apply for directorship, I've seen it time and time again, a watermark will cover something on the screen. Yeah, they may not account it when they actually put the watermark over it when they're editing their video, but it does cover something. It can cover text, it can cover an option, it can cover a button that you may need to push. It's just, you gotta think about it. You gotta actually say, they might need to see what's actually gonna be behind this thing. So you gotta make it transparent, or you're like, either gonna do an audio mark if you do commentary instead of a watermark, because what that watermark may take up, if it's not transparent, could actually be important in your end result. You always gotta consider that.
And even the font, sometimes I've seen people put watermarks up there. They don't change the font, and the default for most programs is either like Times Roman or like Arial. You know, the most boring, plain font that you could put up there. It just shows that either you didn't put very much care into it, or you know, you didn't do the research required to actually know how to change that kind of stuff. So those are the things that we look for, is people to put the effort in.
If you're going to use Arial, at least make it stand out a bit more, but Times New Roman and that type of thing, it really doesn't, you know, it's not watermark kind of quality. It just looks awful no matter where you place it and no matter what video you're doing. If you're going to use fancy fonts, make sure that they're readable and not, you know, distracting with the fact that it never ruins the video.
Right.
I'm just gonna not like go deep into HD, but if you can't record HD, don't render in HD, because the whole purpose of high quality to me is to hide the blemishes of, like, you know, bad pixels and stuff, because you can't really make out all that stuff. But if you like take a 640 by 480 images and stretch it, you can see all the bad blemishes in HD, and it's just like, if only I could watch this in high quality.
It's like Mitch Hedberg says, Carmex is cold sore highlighter. You're highlighting blemishes.
Yeah.
That's
and even so, I'm an advocate of using emulators whenever possible for like older consoles and stuff. Some people don't like to use them, but I find emulators can make or enhance like the image altogether than just using the regular console.
Yeah, that's true.
Like what Squirt said with the Wii, I know that if you use like the Wii emulators out there, they're actually output at higher resolutions than what the normal Wii would.
Well, the emulators that's kind of a different animal. Like I said, if it's applicable, then do it. But like an emulator would obviously give you a little bit more flexibility as far as getting HD, but a lot of people don't. They use their actual Wii.
Yeah.
Some people will use their video cameras. Some of them will use a Dazzle. Some of them will use a Game Bridge, or you know, whatever. You know, the Dazzle is good. Like, yeah, it's a good cheap option if you want to record, but don't expect to get anywhere with it. It's
Alright, one final thing. Don't use cameras, man. Any kind of camera. That's a bad. You're going to hell if you go to use those.
I don't think we even accept camera walkthroughs on GameAnyone.com, do we?
No, we do if it's a handheld. That's the one thing. If it's not emulatable, then it's a handheld, then we do accept it.
It's debatable too, so it's just best not to use a camera.
Yeah.
No safe yes.
Pretty much every handheld now can be emulated, so, or at least found ways to be recorded off the computer. So right now it's just a case of, if you do a cam job and it is a handheld and we do accept it, then we kind of gotta, you know, decide either are we gonna take this or are we not, because if it's shaky and it looks like shit and there's scan lines, then we're not gonna accept it.
But for me personally, you know, you don't really have to impress me that much. I'm pretty a simple guy. You know, as far as quality goes, it would be nice if you could get like semi-decent HD up, but you know what? I really don't care too much about, you know, widescreen, crystal clear, and all that, you know, crazy data on, you know, like what HD quality would be. Something that looks nice and decent. I also prefer the image not to be stretched out to fill in the whole screen, because some people don't like black bars. The black bars don't really bother me as long as the game, you know, just, you know, looks appropriate and looks right. Other than that, commentary is big for me. I don't watch many walkthroughs online at all, actually, and the ones I do watch definitely have to have commentary, and I prefer it to be, you know, just a guy sitting around playing video games. He doesn't have to be so descriptive about the video game he's playing either. Like, let's say he's playing an RPG. He doesn't have to point out, you know, everything about a weapon or a certain magic spell or what you have to do here. That's really not important to me. I would say, you know, just have fun, you know, shoot the breeze and just enjoy yourself playing the game. I think that's the kind of experience, you know, I'm looking for, and that's the kind I like to do. So, you know, commentary, good commentary is a must, decent HD. And the rest of the guys kind of covered and touched up on some of the other stuff that I also look forward to. Other than those things, guys, other than all that other stuff, you know, we're very easy to please, you know what I'm saying? Especially Scorch.
Very easy to please, as long as you've got the Benjamins.
But does anyone else have anything else?
Just one thing. The way that people can apply to some things is people that we really don't know. So when it comes to forum contributions and stuff like that, when we actually go and read them, we really don't know these people. And we're kind of inviting them into, like, our kind of little group, you know, like, our kind of insight group. We talk to one another sometimes. Well, most of the directors talk to one another. Like myself, Dave, Scorch, Mace Man, and Zach all seem to talk to each other, like, once or twice a week. And it's just kind of an insight group, you know, like, we get to know each other a bit more, and we feel comfortable talking to each other, and it's just like, how do I put this? It's basically kind of like, you kind of work together as a team, and that's just kind of what the directorship's all about. If there's something wrong, we're all, you know, fair type of thing.
Yeah, and it takes time to get to know us, so, I mean, don't be offended if you're like, oh, I want to talk to you guys on Skype, and we don't respond. It's nothing personal, it's just that we have a lot going on already, and yeah, like Wolf said, we don't really know you, you know. You gotta contribute in the forum and, you know, build up the relationship. That's kind of part of it, being a director.
Other than that,
Something
it's simple.
to add to that real quick. Don't repeatedly ask us. We don't answer you or talk to you right. Don't keep asking and asking for something. Like, that's just like, oh, my guy's
Oh, we all know that.
asking, yeah.
I think everybody can say they don't like that at some point.
But
Yeah.
we have one last final question that was posted in the podcast forums, and that is, what do you guys think of online play? And that can go, that can extend out to a number of things. Volv, let me ask you first. What do you think of online play?
If you have friends and stuff that have moved away, for example, with my wife, people are moving away to different parts of the United Kingdom to go to university and college, and, like, we still try and communicate with each other, keep in contact with each other, even play games together, and to be honest, that can be done over the internet now, like, with people who have an Xbox or a PS3 or even a PC. We can play games online no matter what the distance is, regardless if we're in another country, if we're in a different part of the country, or even, like, if, or say, we are not even impossible to even get in contact with each other anymore because we're out, I don't know, out Midwest or something, you know? Like, farther away or Mid-East. It's just crazy stuff. Nowadays, it's actually very good to actually sit down and play an online game with some of your friends that may have moved on and you haven't really seen them for a couple of years, and you're still able to talk to them and have fun and remember the good old days when you could sit down in the same room and, I don't know, drink a few beers and play a video game and get drunk with each other.
Ooh-ah. Awesome,
Sounds
man.
like fun.
Scorch, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I got a little bit. My view on the whole online play is that I don't care for it, actually. You know, I got into the whole online play back when you hadn't used dial-up modems, and I played a couple of games with some friends, you know, back in the day, but that's really the extent of how far I took it, because either my friends came over or we didn't play multiplayer games, and I just started gravitating to the types of games where single player was the way to go. And then I never got into the whole WoW thing. I never got into EverQuest, any of those MMOs. They don't interest me, and I didn't like having to rely on finding someone on the internet to, you know, play the game with me so that I could progress. Final Fantasy XI was the big killer for that one. You couldn't, until they updated it, you couldn't get anywhere in that game without a party, and it just didn't appeal to me. So, you know, as for the whole Xbox Live, I don't do that. I don't do PSN. I stick to the single player stuff, and mostly that's also because none of my friends play games anymore. It's really, you know, we all have our own things to do, and you just kind of move out of it. So.
Interesting. Zach, where do you weigh in on online play?
I am a big, heavy user of online play. Like, most of the games I don't play, like, most of the games I played but don't record are all, like, multiplayer games, like Counter-Strike and Call of Duty, I played WoW for a while back, like before Burning Crusade and stuff. I got into it for like a couple months, but then I didn't really care for that kind of stuff. But I'm a big user of multiplayer.
Awesome,
I love
man.
it. It's
Good
crack
stuff.
to me.
But for me personally, I haven't really played any online play. I couldn't say if I would like it or don't like it, but the thing is, I've never really, I've never even played it, and that's probably due to all my friends. Basically, you know, they didn't do a lot of online play, kind of what Scorch was saying. So I think that goes to me. I just haven't done any online play with them. Therefore, I never got into it when, you know, I was growing up and so forth. And I still don't have any of the newer systems like the PS3, the Xbox 360, or the Nintendo Wii. So, you know, I haven't checked it out. I probably will sometime. You know, I always wanted to check it out. But I'll get to it eventually. So, you know, those are some good questions, I think. Guys, keep them up, you know. Feel free to ask us more questions in the future in the podcast form, and we'll try and bring them up if possible. Good stuff. But we want to move into another segment right now. We kind of just want to touch on something really quick, and we'll get into this definitely in the future. And that would be the Game Anyone Poster Awards. That's right, we've been kind of tinkering around with this idea for a while. Basically, what we want to do is create a sub-form and have the users of GameAnyone.com, the people who watch, the people who make videos, nominate and divide people into categories, you know, like different genres, best HD, best, you know, commentary, you know, that kind of thing. We'll just make up a bunch. You guys will pick people, and then we'll have a vote. And, you know, it's just kind of supposed to be a fun little thing, you know, to get the board going and get the, you know, the members involved more with the site itself. So I think that'll be a lot of fun, and we'll be announcing the Game Anyone Poster Awards on the future podcasts to come. But we haven't got it started yet, so look for that in the future. If you guys want to add anything to that, feel free.
I think that pretty much says it.
Awesome,
it's just
man.
a feature that we'll be coming up with soon.
And finally, we have a new segment on the Game Anyone podcast. This should be a lot of fun. It's called the Trivia segment, and actually we're going to ask you some questions and award you some credits. And it's first come, first serve, basically. So if you want to answer these questions, you go to the podcast form, and there shall be some instructions, you know, you can read up on and follow. Okay, so we have 4 questions lined up, and the first one being, in the game Final Fantasy VII, what does Aeris say about the guy living in the pipe in the Sector 5 slums? That's question number 1. If you know the answer, you better move your ass over to the podcast form, write it down. First person who gets the correct answer wins. Awesome stuff. And I believe Volv has the next question lined up.
Yep. How many Goombas are there in World 1-2 of the original Super Mario Bros?
So,
You can answer that.
if you know
Take
how
that
many
to the
Goombas
podcast.
exactly there are in that world, go to the podcast form and, you know, fill in the right answer. And we got 2 more questions.
I believe this one's mine. What game was Michael Jackson rumored to be called in to help compose music for, but later called off due to allegations against him at the time of the development?
Awesome stuff. A Michael Jackson question. Now that could be a tricky one. We're trying to throw in a couple of, you know, tricky questions for you. But, you know, believe it or not, the Michael Jackson question is true, or at least rumored to be true. So if you are aware of that answer, you know, feel free to write down the correct answer in the podcast form. Scorch, I believe the last question is yours.
The last question is mine, and we're also probably going to offer different prizes based on the difficulty of the question. So, if this picks up as a hit, then you know you'll start seeing more difficult stuff. But the question is, what 3 SquareSoft games were released as part of a summer promotion where one game was released every month for the whole summer? So
Awesome
if you have
stuff.
the answers to any of those, yeah, head over to the forum where we're going to have everything posted, all the prizes. We'll set something up for you guys to be able to answer that.
Good, man. Good stuff. Well, those are our trivia questions. We hope to have a lot more to come in the future. It's been a lot of fun, guys. I do want to go over the GameAnyone.com raffle once again. There's about 7 days left in that. Go over to the main page, and you should see a column that says raffle on it. Check that out and place your bids down because Mace is offering up a 1,000 gigabyte hard drive, like we said. So, you know what? You probably want to get your hands on that. So, do we have any closing comments, guys? Anything left to say?
I love you guys. I love everybody with all my heart. You guys are like my brothers, my sisters.
Sisters.
Whoa there.
Volva's the sister.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah,
all live
everyone.
in West Virginia, so it's okay.
What about you,
No
Scorch?
problem.
Anything? Closing comments?
No, not really. I just want to thank everybody for their support that they've been giving us on the site, and tell your friends about us.
Good stuff. Volv, what about you?
I don't really have anything to say. Really, you guys have pretty much covered everything I really wanted to say, so sorry on that part.
The Mafia calls.
All right. Well, we hope you have enjoyed our little podcast. We've been spending a lot of time making this one. We hope to have the next one online. We'll have future news about the Game Anyone Poster Awards. We want to get into that. It's going to be a lot of fun. And thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for podcast number 4 coming up in the following weeks. We're going to have more trivia. We're going to have more question and answer. It's going to be a lot of fun. Awesome stuff. Giddy up, baby. Say goodbye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
I'm gonna go get some of that pizza.
Hoo-ah!